Hello, and welcome to The Nature Connection, Science, Wildlife, and Environment Radio, with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's Nature Connection show. We love this show because it's all about wildlife, nature, the environment, which, of course, we like to focus on climate change. And we do this show with our friend, fine art nature photographer, Margot Carrera, fine art nature photographer. There we go. I'll get that right, because you've got to go check out her website, CarreraFineArtGallery.com. She really does everything she can to let everybody know, hey, the environment is something important to protect, but also to be part of Mother Nature. And that's also what our guest today is about. We're very excited. We have a very special guest, Professor-Alan-Tratner. He is one of the co-founders of Earth Day. Think about it. We know about Earth Day. Every April it comes around, we talk about it. He was part of that. He's also one of the pioneers in Environmental Education Group, Green to Gold Incubator, the National Transition Initiative, and so many things. And one of his newest projects is the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance, which is our main focus on today's show. I know we'll go and talk about other things too and what we can do for the environment, but this is an amazing nonprofit organization really working with major companies to go from oil-based plastics. Think about what you buy on the store shelves. Half of that plastic packaging comes, it's oil fueled and it's oil in it and your food is in it. By the way, that's not cool. So they're looking at going from plastic, oil-based plastic, to environmentally friendly bioplastics and ones that are compostable. Like if you're in Seattle, this is the thing. Nancy and I travel full time documenting parks, public lands to protect them. And we travel, we pet sit on our way. It's better internet doing it. And we now know what happens to trash across this country. If you're in Seattle, your biggest trash can, like your trash can, is a compostable, or I don't know how you say it in this kind of compostable.
Compostable.
Compostable. I've lived all over, so I get weird. Compostable. It's all about your land waste, your compost, your remains from food go into that trash can. Then you have one for recycling. And then your garbage can is this teeny little trash can compared to the rest of the country. So it's really exciting to see what we can do with the packaging, because eventually we could get to the point where we don't have garbage. So everyone, look at this website, aplasticfreeworld.org. So welcome back, Margot. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. We in San Diego have a similar waste program. So as you were describing it, it's what we're doing here. And even the smaller one is even smaller because I'm taking food waste and putting it in a compost bin where I'm doing that for my garden.
Is it compostable or compostable?
Compostable, yes.
Can you get the words right?
It's okay.
That's
Tomato,
awesome.
Tomato, it's all good.
No, that's good. But that's awesome. And, I think also when we look at all these big complexes like, condos and apartment buildings, having compost being part of that is another deal. And I know we worked with Global Green on some of those shows of what they were doing, which is awesome. But Alan, welcome to the show. How are you? Aloha, you're in Hawaii.
That is true. Aloha. Margot and Lisa and your listeners, welcome, and I'm pleased to be with fellow Earthlings on this program. And I'm excited to explain about the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance and what we're trying to do and the impact it can have on this planet, a real, true biological and business solution.
Well, this is important because we buy things, we go to the grocery store, or even it could be anything, right? And it's always this extra wrapping. I mean, even now I know in COVID, it got weird. We couldn't, take our reusable bags to, Whole Foods or wherever we're going to go, grocery stores. And now we're getting back into, here's your plastic bag, even if you don't need it. If you buy a bag of potatoes, they're going to put them in another bag. So we're still fighting that. So tell us a little bit of the difference between what a plastic, like, just a regular, if you buy one thing, this is plastic versus compostable. I'm so British, I think, on the one side. So something that's biodegradable. I'm going to use that word. I like
That's
the
good.
big words
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
that word.
Yeah, what struck me about being engaged with David Sandoval, who created this and is a wonderful environmental entrepreneur and has a wonderful organic-based nutritional companies, Fortune 5,000 companies. Just amazing that what he does in the world and about nutrition and health, and he's like a guru to the stars in Hollywood. But he wanted to do this, and he doesn't just talk the talk. He walked the talk, and in his own companies, he set upon a pathway to take the packaging that was conventional in his field, foods and supplements and stuff, and go away from petroleum-based plastics. And that is the issue, the heart of this matter that we're talking about right now. And he proved it. He went through the searching out the solutions and implementing it to the point that he's almost at 100% in his companies in doing this kind of introduction of compostable, bio-based plastics. And so I'll give you the definition of that. You touched upon it earlier. Virtually everything that is produced and manufactured on this planet gets packaged in some way to get somewhere else. And that's commercial, industrial, everything you can think of, normally in boxes made out of cardboard and stuff, in large scale things and shipping containers that are out of wood and crates and all that. And those are, in a sense, since it's wood, they can be renewable, and they're bio-based, of course, but they don't end up always going where they should go in their final use. It's called cradle to cradle, or the life cycle of products and stuff that we do in our incubator, about designing products from the get-go to be sustainable materials and recyclable and compostable and all that. And so we pioneered in trying to engender that and fuse that into industry and commercial products, green products. So even at the industrial level, this can have an effect, certainly, like you pointed out, consumers. So the difference between the plastic bags, again, not the paper bags, and now what's cool is I've just recently seen that there are not just the recyclable paper bags, but compostable paper bags that are for this use. And again, but that's trees, the cultivation and the cutting of trees. And we're losing, as you know, the issue of the Amazon and the rainforest and our oxygen, the lungs of the planet. We got to be careful about all of this stuff. But trees can be a renewable resource. But why do that if there's a quicker solution and more that closes the whole cycle? So petroleum-based is no good for tons of reasons that you probably have covered, from the creation of the mining and the oil drilling, to all the refineries and the emissions and climate-changing gases and everything that we go through, and that obviously goes into our cars, and the fossil fuel burning of coal-fired plants and oils and gas. They're the biggest contributors, straightforward to the carbon in the atmosphere that's causing these terrible disasters that we're already experiencing in climate change, the floods and tornadoes and hurricanes and droughts. And I mean, it's just amazing. This whole last couple of years, people finally, even if they didn't believe in it and were the ones that were against the idea of climate change, you can't deny what's happening to the planet right now. How many people, millions of people, are suffering, and there could be a giant migration. So let's look at the great solutions that our creative minds, our genius minds of humanity, we invented our way into this mess. We can invent our way out. That was why I created my organization with Earth Day, is let's invent a new future. And here comes this idea.
That's exciting for businesses, though, because to me, it's like that opens opportunity for business and commerce, but it's on a positive way versus the negative way, right? So whenever there's
good green jobs, it's good green jobs. Yeah, sustainable economic development. And so what we've done with the formation of the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance, and we welcome people to get involved from industry and commercial and product developers and inventors and entrepreneurs and nonprofits and everybody to get involved and get engaged and become members and donate and help us. But mostly, we're trying to foster the rapid adoption of compostable packaging. To me, what is extraordinary from my background in science and the environment and everything else is that this is one of those solutions that is kind of like a no-brainer for a major problem in the world of petroleum packaging waste at all levels, and what it goes into the oceans and the terrible things that are happening there, and pollution and the landfills and all the stuff that we've made mistakes about that we can rectify in this great transition to a better future. So essentially, that's the green economy that I've been pushing since Earth Day, is an inclusive global green economy that will lift up the developing countries and not pollute the world and make it sustainable and all the good things and stop the climate change and have jobs that are sustainable and are making energy, renewable energy and all this stuff. So in a way, this is one of those solutions that comes along that is both technological but bio-based. And I've said this in the quotes. You take a seed from a plant, from a farm or anywhere in nature. The seed grows a plant. You harvest it for the fruits and vegetables or whatever it is, and then that waste of that is the biological renewable basis, the ecosystem that can go into these compostable packagings of all natures and containers, by the way, in different kinds of ways packaging is done. It isn't just the bags or the boxes, it's containers. And, what normal plastic bottles, even your vitamins that come in that kind of stuff should be this. So, and that contributes to a lot of the waste and the issue of landfills and getting into the oceans and everything else. And what happens is the life cycle of this compostable thing that the genesis was a seed and a plant, is that here you're carrying in a non-toxic way this packaging for your foods and your goods and your products and everything else in a safe manner, and it gets into the consumer's hands or the industrial hands or commercial hands or government, whatever. And then when it's used, what happens is that compostable packaging can be the harvesting of another seed and another plant and close the cycle and give us oxygen and carbon capture and all those wonderful attributes of the bio-based economy that the Food and Agriculture Department of the United States, when I was doing the Clean Business Conference of Eco Expo during the 1990s across the country, we had Al Gore involved and everything. They were proposing a bio-based economy, and I've always been an advocate of that. That's where we should be heading, is that everything is renewable and grown. And in this case, we're doing it here. We have a proven solution. There are vendors that have been identified for the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance that are making these kinds of things, have invested in the machinery and the tooling and the knowledge, and we have the know-how to be able to convey that to those that want to do it and be able to move rapidly into adoption, get rid of the oil-based packaging and the plastics, and move into compostable. And there are solutions for everybody at every level I can imagine right now. And that's why that cycle is so beautiful to me, because it is, in fact, the bio-based cycle that not only helps with the packaging waste, it's a closed system, but guess what? It's taking the plants that are causing this to be available to us and be compostable as fertilizer. And, they actually put seeds. I remember, as I was told the story about the introduction at David's companies, Organic by Nature and Purium, they had a meeting of their teams and everything, and they were growing plants in the packaging, because there you go, compostable, and the seeds you put some water and then you get some sunlight, and there you go. So the whole point is that but the fact that they're compostable, and as you pointed out, some of the cities are already moving to collecting those for agriculture and that kind of development, but we can do that, and as consumers. But the most important thing is that it causes oxygen to be made by the plants, and obviously, if you know the photosynthetic process, the carbon gets collected and in a sense used in the plant, in the soil. and you're talking about issues that start to talk about agriculture and the ripping away of all of our sustainable topsoil, and all things are going to affect hundreds of millions of people in the future about food and water and energy and everything else. If you have a solution like this that has such an incredible impact for consumer and everybody else, the packaging, we must adopt it. And there must be incentives from government and tax incentives, and entrepreneurs and inventors and big companies and small companies should just move in this quick transition. And that's what the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance is all about.
Well,
that
I think what's
change is fundamental.
What's really good is that right now, and like I said, we travel the country full time, documenting parks, public lands, and you see even and actually recycling cans started in our national park system. But here's the deal. Wherever we go, it's always like, what is your trash situation? And I didn't know that, during COVID, we started pet sitting. I didn't know that this was going to be my new thing. What is our trash situation across the country? We were just in Northeast Pennsylvania where people are burning their trash, burning it, and then recycling. And then there's this whole argument, and in reality-based argument of what is happening with all the plastic bottles. Now, we've also had, discussions on plastic water bottles about those actually off-gassing and causing cancer when they're warm, so people drink it and then get breast cancer from that because of the off-gassing, because they're petroleum-based. Then we put them in the recycling, and then we find all these reports that the recycling never got there. Oh, you can't recycle plastic and glass in your community. Here's all these rules. And then eventually people just go, screw it, I'm throwing it in the landfill because this isn't making any sense. Because the recycling thing is not working as well in regards to getting the trickle down to the people who go, is it really going to be recycled? Is plastic really recyclable when we're seeing that it goes into the oceans and we have plastic islands? So there's a lot of problems with this. So that's where I go with this solution part of it being something that maybe even can help farmers, so long as it's not like a Monsanto monocrop kind of deal, right? So You see what I mean? Where I'm going with it?
100%. 100%. The bio-based economy, that's part of the green economy, that is fundamental in renewable energy and all that, and recycling and cleansing of water and not wasting water, that's such a precious resource. But when you do bio-based plastics, they are not only compostable in this case, but then they are also recyclable and a part of that cycle because they're bio-based. And so the fact that we got to end ultimately the waste that happens in landfills and the pollution and everything else that's going on there. And there's got to be 100%, zero waste and all that economy that happens where we're not wasting things and things come back in a life cycle to be reused and everything. But while you're doing that, it's got to be this bio-based thing that helps sequester carbon and helps produce oxygen and isn't toxic. You pointed out about just the plastic bottles, let alone food in the bags that we carry that are petroleum based. It is kind of ridiculous at the awareness that we do have in the science of this right now that we are still doing, but that's vested interest. It always has been. Why do we continue to pump oil and sell it when the climate is being destroyed and everything? It's because there's vested interest, and that's why we have to push the transition. The Plastic Free Packaging Alliance is going to be a powerful force for industry and consumers to get behind, and everybody that makes any kind of product that gets packaged. We can do this now. It isn't R&D. It isn't something off in the future. This is a transition that can happen now. Your next packaging order, if you're a company making products, should be right now investigating through the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance and all the other ones that are caring about this. How do you substitute buying that plastic package or that plastic box or that container that's petroleum based for the bio-based? First of all, it gives you an edge on your competition that's not going that direction. It's a competitive differentiation, extreme differentiation, if you might, that makes you more attractive to the people that care about the planet. And believe me, the generations now are caring about that. And all of us are getting more aware of this. So do it. implement that. You have to package it anyway. You might as well do it in a green, sustainable, bio-based way that is non-toxic and will help the planet in climate remediation.
But what are these things being made of? That's what I want to talk about, that part, because when we look at what's going on in the country with topsoil, because I remember corn-based packaging coming out, and then we're looking at, that's another big monocrop thing that is hurting our topsoil. So what are we looking at this packaging actually being produced from? And is it more smaller farmers creating this? What is the ingredient process and farming process?
Yeah. I think what you're referring to for your listeners is that in the first run of this kind of biological based fuels, remember all this with the ethanol and everything that was corn based,
French fry oil.
Yeah, what's his name? That famous singer that got behind that, the country rock. I forget his name right now, but he was behind this whole. Remember, he's the one that did Farm Aid, and
Willie Nelson.
Willie
Nelson.
Nelson.
Son Lucas has been on our show. Willie.
Yeah.
Hey, he's in
Willie Nelson.
Too.
Willie. Listen, he pushed this idea of biodiesel. And it is true. Instead of petroleum-based diesel in the trucks and everything else, and it's something. If you get it from a French fry place or a restaurant, it's kind of cool because it smells very interesting and very attractive. But it's bio-based from the farms. Okay, when they started to go to the recycling of wanting bio-based non-oil plastics and stuff, the first ones were out of like corn and wheat and other kinds of crops that come. The worst part is we need to consume the food for the planet first, and then the waste products that are normally hauled away or whatever, or burned or something stupid like that, are the fodder, literally, of the bio-based materials that make compostable plastics. And it comes from a whole range. You're right. It should be helping the farmers around the world. It should be helping the small farmers. It should be the waste stream that culls that out and separates that for compostability and the reuse of that for making the compostable packages. It's again bio-based, and it closes that cycle. They call it circularity, all kinds of wonderful words nowadays. We didn't have the word sustainability back in the Earth Day. We were trying to.
Organic was actually just normal. Half of the restaurants were doing organic.
That's the world.
Organic. Yep.
Yeah, that's the world. It is funny about the terminology, but through the generations I've watched in 52 years of this, is that at the time we invented this kind of package-free, plastic-free packaging, petroleum plastic-free, we called it eco-inventing and eco-entrepreneurship. That's how the beginning of our entrepreneurship incubator, Green to Gold. So, but nowadays it doesn't matter. Whatever name it is, everybody understands we have to stop polluting the planet. We have to stop putting carbon into the atmosphere.
Doing something different.
We have a solution. This is a solution ready-made. And the fact that David and the crew of this company and what we're doing with Green to Gold and our alliance with them and everyone else that cares about, we have the solutions now. This is adoptable. It's adaptable and adoptable to all kinds of packaging, and it has to happen. And that's why government should get behind it, and the media, like you're doing, for helping us get behind it, and the people that produce products everywhere and foods and everything should get behind it, because in a way you're helping the whole cycle. You're helping farmers, you're helping the biology of the planet and the ecosystem, really truly ecosystem, and it's a solution that's right here. Why you would be
water's being packaged in cartons like milk these days. There are companies doing cartons of water, and we as consumers, because that's really the truth, we are consumers and we consume. We have to change our mindset. So instead of, we used to have glass bottles of water, remember those? And we still do. Some restaurants now have glass bottles, and we can use filters. We can use, we've getting better than just the plastic bottles, that even those have been a little bit recycled, but still not the same. But it's still not good for our bodies because it's stored in petroleum. Really, these things are petroleum. So your food, whenever you put your food in plastic, It's petroleum, and that is going to leach into your body. So I'm just going to go on that level. But, we have to unprogram ourselves to, this is how it always has been. I grew up in Africa, luckily, thanks to my mom. Lived in Kenya, South Africa, lived in the bush, then, I had to go into other civilized worlds. And then South Africa started becoming commercial, and I watched that change in my childhood and went, what? And then came to this country and went, oh. And I'm allergic to everything because everything's plastic. And I've never seen so much plastic in my world. I mean, what the heck happened? It's like when we talk about having a soda, like I lived in Mexico. I'm like, you got Coca-Cola in a bottle, a Fanta orange in a bottle that you would take back and get money back if you brought it back to the store. Like, where have we gone? Right. So we've got to get back to that level. And I think we are doing it. But what you're doing, I see being so beneficial in so many ways. It's a great business for the businesses that need packaging. It's great opportunities for people to create the packaging, great for the farmers, great for the land. And when we look at the wars that are going on in the world, a lot of time it boils down to energy and fuel. And this can mitigate that. And I'm going to say, we document parks and public lands full time, and a lot of them are. I was just in Texas trying to film pelicans, and behind the pelicans are oil derricks in a wildlife refuge.
Refineries.
So what do we do? No, oil derricks, actually drilling oil in the refuges. Our forests, our refuges, all of they're all open, BLM land, all open to these things. And so if we can cut our use down, maybe we can protect these natural spaces so we don't have dead zones on land like we have dead zones in the oceans created by the oil. And, just saying. That's where I go with that.
Absolutely. No, carry on, please. But I will remind you, I assume that I'm older than you guys. I remember it when I was growing up, and I would part-time earn some extra money, being on a milk truck. And we would put our bottled milk out, and we would exchange it, and they would take it back and wash them and give you milk the next day. And it was a perfect cycle of not in a very non-toxic container. And I love the buttermilk, by the way, and the chocolate milk. But I will tell you, it was really super to watch that genesis of that concept and why that went away. That we were all contributing to the reuse of things, and instead of always having to create new stuff that causes the use of energy, like you pointed out, and pollution in every part of the cycle of any product. And that's why we've been pushing, and that's what's so wonderful about the Plastic-Free Packaging Alliance and compostable packaging. I want my members that are inventing 100,000 of them around the world in this field they're making new green products and what I call harm-free products. They should be, and I'm pushing them to, in our newsletter, our new one, the global one for this end of the year, we're pushing this concept of the Plastic-Free Packaging Alliance and compostable packaging. Plan in your life cycle of your products that from the get-go, you're using compostable materials and things that are totally bio-based and recyclable. It'll give you a leverage and an advantage in the marketplace against environmental competitors, and it will help the consumers. It'll help the environment. Everybody gets help by that. Help the babies being born and the all the species on.
The younger generation do not want to buy into the stuff that's about to come down. You know what I mean? They're not going to buy into it, and they're the ones out there now. They are not going to buy into it. I wanted to go to you, Margot. Do you have any questions or comments for Alan?
Well, I don't know if you're older than I am. We might be similar in age, but because I do remember the milk bottles being delivered to our house. I am looking at, through the ages, the land being used up, the trees being cut down, and I'm concerned. There's one industry that is using trees for electricity because they had a lot of trees, and they were calling that sustainable.
Mhm.
But they are cutting down the trees to burn them, and obviously by burning them, you're putting carbon back into the air. So we have to be careful when we say sustainable, and it can't just be a buzzword. I like your word compostable, because that makes sense. And
Compostable. I can say it now.
Yeah, yay. And circular. Yeah, what comes from, it goes to, and then it can come again, and then it can go again. And then we truly can be sustainable. Are you finding, as you're out there, industries using that word when it's not really so?
Yeah, well, we've known that for a long time, and we were advocates. And every time I got in the media, I was on Oprah and Good Morning America and all this kind of wonderful stuff. It's the greenwashing is what they call it, is that companies purport to their shareholders and to their consumers and to their, everybody, that they're being green when they're just covering it up. Their PR. I mean, there's some wonderful examples about Exxon and some other ones that were actually working against what they were saying to the world they were doing. So, this is what has to happen in the boardrooms of corporations. This is what has to happen in schools and the PTA down to, the consumer at the home level, is this big transition, the change. We're not going to hold everybody that they're villains. They may have been, and there's criminals and mentally disordered people and stuff, but for the most part, most businesses are part of this capitalist system. We've got to make it totally bio-based. We have to have a green economy for the planet that's inclusive and global, and it's got to be based on the things that will protect the environment and all of the species of life on this planet, or Spaceship Earth, as Buckminster. I actually worked with him, Buckminster Fuller, before he died. And I did a book with him. He did the forward to a book, Energy, Earth, and Everywhere, and they used all my stuff about renewable energy. So we've got to do this. The world has got to come together at a crisis time. That's why they're having all the, the global meetings and COP and all that stuff. We've got to get everyone to do a fundamental change in their thinking, their mindset. The Plastic Free Packaging Alliance is going to help us make a big change in a fundamental aspect of capitalism and the economies of the world, packaging. We can do this now and adopt it and make it happen. And that's why I'm so thrilled that we have the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance. And what it wants to do, it wants to award and honor and recognize the companies that are making these changes. We're going to do that right away, coming at the beginning of the year at some major conferences and expositions. And we want to also recognize and award and the people that are making the change, that are manufacturing compostable products. Those people, that's part of that economy. And those are good green jobs. So ladies, boy, I'm so thrilled to be on the program with you, because you're coming from the right place, and you learned it and earned it. And I tried to be that spark plug. David's the spark for his Plastic Free Packaging Alliance. But back at Earth Day, we didn't realize in that humble beginning of organizing against pollution on the planet, that on Earth Day, the first one, 1/5 of the U.S. population, 20 million people turned out for that. And then the EPA was created, and all the stuff that has followed.
And do you think,
people
by
like
the way,
you making
Nixon actually signing the EPA into,
it was
so this
just
is
incredible.
insane.
The Republicans have to come together. They can't stop denying everything, and let's all get on the same boat. Spaceship Earth is our home. I've seen there's a funny bumper sticker that there's no planet B and plan B, right now. So I think what you're doing, I should mention, if you have a moment, about the national parks. And I'm thrilled to hear you, because I did. I was at Environmental Quality Magazine, the first on the newsstands across the United States magazine after Earth Day, and I was on their staff, and we did all kinds, and I went around the country doing these lectures, and I did it. I stayed at the Yosemite Institute and worked with the Department of Interior, would do for the campers. I would do these programs about the problems and the solutions, you know. And what's amazing, we wrote a big article that was about the national parks, how there was smog in Yosemite and what was happening to Yellowstone. And we tried to point out our national treasures, what's happening by the pollution that we're doing, visiting and everything else. I'm glad that so many things have adopted, but you just pointed out in refuges and everything else, there's still bad practices, bad policy about allowing drilling. We don't need any more oil on this planet. We are blessed on planet Earth with the best nuclear power you ever could have. It's called 93 million miles away, the sun. And it drives all these systems and solar energy and wind and everything else. And we have geothermal, the core of the earth, the molten, the very thing we were talking about earlier where I am in Hawaii, the volcanoes. They can power the whole planet forever, and they're not intermittent like solar and wind. Okay, they are from the planet's heat that's going to radiating to the earth from the heat of the planet. There are so many solutions in what they call microhydro, where you're not doing grand dams that cause a lot of problems, and damming the environment in a sense. You can do so many ways with the bio-based economy that can be these renewable fuels that are based on that and not. The other thing I have to point out is about combustion. Do you know how many of these plastic containers and packages and everything else, as you pointed out, even the wood that's being burned and all that, we can't stand for combustion on this planet. That's why the transition to electric vehicles, electric manufacturing, stopping oil-based and gas-based burning and power plants and coal, of course, one of the worst offenders. This is what the bio-based, the green economy, and the Plastic-Free Packaging Alliance is going to help us make a big impact into the bio-based economy that drives that. And the fact that you're helping us advocate that is delicious. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to espouse this and explain it.
Well, I think what's really important is that people understand packaging is one of the biggest problems. The other problem is single-use plastic is one of the worst things. You could buy a razor blade and change that out or sharpen it and have a actual razor that is not single-use. It's like toothbrushes and all kinds of things the single-use plastic seems to be part of it, and it's still packaged in plastic on top of it. So do you see this alliance, one, getting to a place where they can put up for consumers, like what, Margot was talking about, the word sustainable, it's all natural. You go down the grocery store aisle and you don't know what to believe anymore. And same thing with recycling. We don't know what to believe anymore. And when we're all working and feeding kids and doing all these things, how much time can we really devote? So do you see this alliance, aplasticfreeworld.org, getting to a point where they can list these are the companies you can safely buy from, knowing that the packaging is clean? And do you see it ever moving in the future, going into replacing single-use plastic and advocating for that side of it? I know, two big
absolutely.
questions.
Absolutely. So let me address that. And I'm projecting right now, this alliance and what we're trying to do, the Plastic-Free World, all of this stuff is about ending the disposability. And this is an important word. We were talking about circularity and sustainability. This whole thing of disposable stuff and one single use and what it does to the environment, it's kind of like how we look at everything in this world, that it's use and dispose of, and whether it was recycled or not or reused. This word has to go out of our language, and there has to be about zero waste and zero and total recycling, 100% recycling, and bio-based. It must be bio-based, biological-based. And so, yes, I believe that where we're going is we'll start on this major solution right in our lap right now. We're talking about Plastic-Free Packaging Alliance, the companies that will move to do their packaging in this way, and it closes that cycle, and it helps oxygen, helps carbon sequestration and capture and all that, all the things that will help this planet and food production, everything. But getting away from disposability and the fact that we burn fuels to push ourselves away when we already know what that's doing on every part of the petroleum cycle and what's happening to the climate. So this idea of let's get rid of disposability and one use, and let's think about one of my own members, a woman entrepreneur, green entrepreneur, decided to make the change of her shampoos and organic based products and everything else and lotions and all that, really great products. But she said, I don't want to package them. I want everyone I'm going to give them one bio-based package and they go and refill them. Okay, and we'll exchange for that. And that's a movement that is part of circularity,
and
and getting rid of the
now.
Yeah, and dispose. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, the mindset that we grew up, advertising agencies pushing us and everything else. You can dispose of. Who wants disposability when you can recycle and use those again and again, and it causes more jobs to be created, and it's part of the green economy. And I think you're right about the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance and what they're ultimately. We want to adopt this solution now across the board for industrial and commercial and consumer packaging. But I think the next step is to push that into everyone being aware and get rid of the idea of disposability, of course, and the bio-based green economy that we all should be living in. This will change the planet. This will rescue the planet if we do it right. So government and consumers and industry, everybody working together, and let the politicians adopt this. And thank God for the Biden administration. Whatever your politics are about climate change and recycling and infrastructure and building green, building back better. This is the change from the previous. Believe me, the previous administration, dramatically so. And we got and what Europeans are doing in other countries like Africa, the adoption. I've been asked to do a lot of stuff in the African continent about renewable energy and water reuse and regenerative agriculture. There is such opportunity for us. And by the way, that's jobs. It's good green jobs. It's economic development that's sustainable. And that is part of what we're all about now, and we should be about. And the fact that you're helping us advocate that, I can't thank you enough. And I want your listeners to understand, go check out the Plastic Free Packaging Alliance, find out about what we do at Green to Gold and your great ideas for the future. The kids are coming up with such incredible stuff and collegiate level about new products, new technologies that will rescue the future. I'm thrilled about all of this, and the fact that you guys are doing what you're doing, and gals, literally, in conservation, about the national parks and nature. This is what it's part of this movement. I've only been waiting for 52 years for you guys to do this. So welcome to what we're waiting.
And we've been grateful for you showing up before us.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you've got the American Sustainable Business Association working on this, as well as the Surfrider Foundation. Margot, we love them, and also Friends of the Earth, or different organizations I know. And also look at it being something locally. Who's in your backyard creating products? A lot of small businesses and small creators of products I know are turning to hemp, which was actually brought into this country years ago by George Washington.
It was part of the revolution. Are you kidding? The sails and clothes and the revolution. Henry Ford built the most amazing composite hemp original bodies for his cars. And there's a famous video of him smacking it with a huge sledgehammer and it bouncing back. And we can do all that. Exactly. It is the technologies will rescue this world if they get adopted, and consumers drive that. The demand comes from the consumers in industry for those changes, and the government helping with tax incentives and everything and adoption, and you folks in the media telling and educating the world. It is so important right now. And I know
it's important because of this with the fuel, because I just know from what we have done also just in reporting in regards to like the Dakota Access Pipeline. We did it. We were one of the first people on there before CNN and NBC and all, except for Amy over Democracy Now! She was there at that time. We were doing this, and when we started to really research what was happening at the Dakota Access Pipeline, we started trying to find lawyers to help. And we ran into a bank of oil lawyers, and then we got into the nitty-gritty of who was behind the oil. And then we found out it was all our bankers and credit card companies. All of them were in it. And so when we talk about getting rid of plastic, we're talking about getting rid of these fuel economies, which is basically our banks. So we want to turn our banks into being green banks. So that is at the very deepest part of it all, because that is the seed of evil, if I may say so.
Ladies, let me tell you, the investors in our entrepreneurship and inventing and new technologies and all these new products and stuff, there's a whole wave that's happening about impact investing and changes in their, it isn't all greed like Wall Street. It's supposed to be, you know, that we're going to make a difference and make money at it. The investor side of banking too, the venture side is there's changes. There's a lot of money pouring into green tech and this kind of stuff, clean tech. And that's a window of opportunity here that makes a big difference. Like you said, the investors and the bankers and the people that are financing and investing. Why do you think universities and companies are divesting their portfolios from oil and petroleum and those kinds of things? It's a big message. The handwriting is on the wall. I will tell you another aspect of this. It's called, you know, you hear it all the time about food, buying food locally for the farmers. You know, instead of shipping on these, you know, 95% of all the trade that happens around the world is on these big giants cargo ships, you know, that are burning diesel bunker oil. And there's a lot of movement. Even the maritime industry is trying to reduce all that pollution and carbon and everything else. We have solutions in Green to Gold that are dramatic for reducing those ships, but they have to move to renewable energy power and hydrogen and all that kind of stuff. But why are we shipping stuff all over the planet when we can grow it locally? And localization, green businesses, green centers. We're involved in a micro manufacturing hub called the Green Highway in Georgia that wants to put together a bunch of green enterprises, inventors, entrepreneurs, even the nonprofits. And it's in a hub that's micro manufacturing that's green. And everybody's sharing the resources, renewably powered and all that kind of stuff. Localized food, localized businesses, local production can regenerate this country. And poverty centers and all those problems that we have and homelessness could be really changed dramatically if we start to concentrate not on these mega farms, you know, this whole revolution that happened on the, you know, the corporate farm that's doing a lot of destruction in the world. We have to get back to honoring the people that are close to the earth. The natives had showed us and the ancients had showed us this is where the bio-based economy, what we're doing at the plastic-free packaging, like compostable plastics. You know, it's from the earth and it comes back to the earth and makes more plants and helps us. So, boy, I'm getting all fired up here. It's amazing.
I know, but now listen, I'm in
stimulating.
Georgia right now. We're in Savannah, Georgia, so and then we're going to Georgia again. Like, I want to know about that highway. I want to cover it. So please follow up. Like, let's connect on that. I want to do the highway, the Green Highway. That's a thing.
You got it. And they're already those companies that are going to make products, whether they're solar panels or wind or consumer products, they're going to be using the Plastic-Free Packaging Alliance credo. We're going to make those, all the packaging from the get-go will become compostable. You know, and it's just the perfect solution at the right time. And it's such a biological, eco-based system. That's why I'm just so thrilled about it, because the bio-based economy will change. It is cool. It is cool. Something that kids... Listen, you can grow a plant in your home from one of the packaging. The kids can grow some, you know, fun stuff. And we
used to eat our paper as kids because you could eat your paper, but you can't now. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You could. You could. Well, anyway, like that was, well, we won't date myself back that far either. But listen, everyone, go to the website, aplasticfreeworld.org. I want to close with a song because you're in Hawaii. From one of our friends, Makana. Go to makanamusic.com. He's been on our shows over the years. He stood up to just about everybody and anything that especially Monsanto, all kinds of people. But we're going to play his song, We Are the Many. It is We Are the Many, You Are the Few. And this was way back when, going off on what was going on in Wall Street. And he's a big believer in green business and in all things just. So I encourage you to go to his website, makanamusic.com. But this is an oldie and a goodie. We're going to play We Are the Many. I encourage you to go to Margot's website, CarreraFineArtGallery.com. We air shows with Margot every fourth Friday, but apparently now we're just doing them all the time. So keep up with us at BigBlendRadio.com, because apparently, Margot, we're on a surge. We got to go. We got to do it. It's just happening.
You know, when someone's knocking on your door, you answer, and if it's the right cause, so be it.
If they bring cookies, they're allowed in. And they don't.
They have to be organic. They have to be organic and packaged and compostable stuff.
Yes.
By the way, aloha, the word aloha, I've learned from being here, it's got so many spiritual and different, but it's so inclusive of the thoughts about the earth and humanity and our friendship and our relationships. Aloha is a gorgeous word for everything, you know, that they have adopted here and part of their language. And so I leave you all and your listeners with a hearty aloha. Make a difference. You will help the future be a brighter future, a greener future for this planet and for future generations.
Awesome.
So be it.
Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you.
Come here, gather round the stage. The time has come for us to voice our rage against the ones who've trapped us in a cage, to steal from us the value of our wage, from underneath the vestiture of law. The lobbyists at Washington do gnaw at liberty, the bureaucrats guffaw. And until they are purged, we won't withdraw. We'll occupy the streets, we'll occupy the courts, we'll occupy the offices of you, till you do the bidding of the many, not the few. Our nation was built upon the right of every person to improve their plight. The laws of this republic they rewrite, and now a few own everything in sight. They own it free of liability. They own that they are not like you and me. Their influence dictates legality, and until they are stopped, we are not free. We'll occupy the streets, we'll occupy the courts, we'll occupy the offices of you, till you do the bidding of the many, not the few. You enforce your monopolies with guns, while sacrificing our daughters and sons. But certain things belong to everyone. Your thievery has left the people none. So take heed of our notice to redress. We had little to lose, we must confess. Your empty words to leave us unimpressed. The growing number join us in protest. We occupy the streets, we occupy the courts, we occupy the offices of you till you do the bidding of the many, not the few. You can't divide us into sides, and from our gaze you cannot hide. Denial serves to amplify, and our allegiance you can't buy. Our government is not for sale. The banks do not deserve a bail. We will not reward those who fail. We will not move till we prevail. We'll occupy the streets, we'll occupy the courts, we'll occupy the offices of you till you do the bidding of the many, not the few. We'll occupy the streets, we'll occupy the courts, we'll occupy the offices of you till you do the bidding of the many, not the few. We are the many, you are the few.